much does AI, artificial intelligence, do you think that has any sort of influence on how all of a sudden people are waking up and being more curious about their intelligence system that they have in their brain? So can you just explain a little bit, because you've got two big things that you're working with, rapid hypnotherapy and NLP.
It's an intelligence. It's our automation. It's our software. If you do something repeatedly, at some point, you don't have to think about it. You're just going to do it. Here's the thing why it's harder for people to believe that they can change. I think the messages are too big, too broad, too scary. Right?
Okay.
I think what we've got to get to a point is give people, I used that term earlier, measurable. We need to suspend disbelief, Sandee. Like when we go and watch a movie, I always use this example. Imagine going and watching Spider-Man, sitting in there and allowing your conscious mind to run the show. You know what will happen? What's this guy doing, sending webs onto the building? Right. That cannot be true. And you'll walk out of the movie. But what do we do instead? We use this term, we suspend disbelief temporarily.
Right.
Now the subconscious mind is there. This is why people even end up crying at certain movies.
Hey there, it's Sandee Sgarlata. Get ready to dive deep into incredible stories of people who've taken life's challenges and turned them into a roadmap to happiness. On this show, we're not just talking about overcoming obstacles. We're uncovering the real, gritty secrets to living a life filled with peace, joy, and genuine happiness. This is Happiness Solved. So let's get started, because happiness is a choice, and the choice is yours.
Reg Malhotra. See, based on our conversation before that we just had, I was like, I'm going to say this. Did I say it correctly?
You got it right. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. I've been working on this. I have been. So for the audience, Reg is the founder and CEO of Neuro Masters Academy, one of the leading and fastest growing personal development organizations in the fields of rapid hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistics programming, also known as NLP. Welcome, Reg. I'm just thrilled to have you. When your bio came across my email, I was like, oh yeah, let's talk to him. This is going to be great. So excited.
Great to be here.
Yeah. Love your background. You're in the middle of doing a training right now. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation, because I think that this is such NLP is an area, and hypnotherapy is an area that I have not really studied. I've done some trainings. And it's one of those areas that I am dying for more information on when it comes to NLP specifically. Before we dive into that, Reg, can you just give us a background of your story and how you got to where you are today to be an internationally recognized speaker, coach, trainer, all of that?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Sandee. And I'm pleased that you are curious and intrigued by this field, as is a lot of people who are out there, working with people in one capacity or another. Because NLP is nothing new. It's just a collection of information on how people do things inside and how to change them, reinstall new ways, and so forth. My story, Sandee, I've been in business for a long time. Before that, I was in corporate. I was an executive in the financial institutions. And at some point, I realized that, like a lot of people, I was chasing happiness. I was chasing happiness. We all do. Like, when we're growing up, what do you want your kids to be? What do all parents say? I want them to be happy, right? And so here I am. And every time I got to a point where I'd feel happier than before, there was still something missing. And there's still something missing. Well, what is this target? How do you do this, right? And I think, of course, I realized that that's a big misconception, because it's really not the pursuit of happiness that is life. It is the pursuit in life that is happiness. I remember when I heard that first. And so somehow in my desire to find out a bit more about myself, I knew something was blocking me, something was feeling stuck. Even though I was succeeding in some areas, there were triggers, there was unnecessary negative emotions, there was a lack of understanding on why I do certain things and not the others. There was comparison syndrome, greed, jealousy, all these things. And plus I'd carried, a reasonably adverse childhood memories with me. And so I found my way through personal development, attending seminars and courses, as we all do at some point, especially when we're in business, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And when I landed upon this field is when I got the most substantial change. It was actually measurable. I could see where I've improved. I could see my temperament, my behaviors. I also noticed that if I truly wanted something, it was no longer a matter of can I. It was going to happen. I had to do a few things inside. I had to take a few actions in a specific way outside, and it just developed from there. Because I had to, here's the thing, Sandee, I had to feel that I have changed. I had to know that I have changed, and I needed to measure that I've changed. And it all happened through this broader field of working with the subconscious mind.
My gosh, I love it. So can you just explain a little bit, because you've got two big things that you're working with, rapid hypnotherapy and NLP. Can you just dive into both of those to explain to the audience what they are and how they each differ from one another?
Sure. Essentially, both are fields where you work with the people's subconscious mind. Now, I don't know how many of your listeners understand that term. It's a pretty widely used term, but let's think of it to make it very simple and non-spooky. It's an intelligence. It's our automation. It's our software. If you do something repeatedly, at some point you don't have to think about it. You're just going to do it because there is an intelligence that stores that data. And both of these fields, we are working with that intelligence. And both the fields, hypnosis or rapid hypnotherapy and neurolinguistics, are designed to bypass our critical thinking mind, our conscious mind, our judging, criticizing, overthinking, analysis mind, because changes are made a lot faster when we can bypass. In NLP, it can be done through linguistics, through certain order and sequence of words and certain instructions. And there are like things like phobias, things like procrastination. You really overcome them, help overcome them in a matter of 10 minutes. And I mean, even negative emotions, like imagine some people have anger on something for 30, 40 years.
Oof.
It's still there. Imagine being able to get rid of that. So NLP is very fast working, and it's very, you don't have to relax, or enter a deep trance state. Whereas hypnotherapy is best done when you're in a focused, relaxed state, because, it's a lot easier to accept the messages coming to you and make the changes inside the session. I mean, how do you explain, Sandee, a smoker letting go of smoking, that he's been smoking a pack a day for 20, 30 years, and it's gone in 2 hours? Like, how do you explain that? What else are we doing inside? Is self-hate a program? I would argue yes.
Yeah. And I love how you are comparing our subconscious mind and the way our brains work to an operating system, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And Reg, I don't know about you, but by the time this episode airs, I had episode 352 was released today. I don't even know. I forget. Yeah. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people, and I've noticed a big shift just this year. And I want to ask you, and this is not, I hadn't planned on talking about this, but it just came up when you were talking, because you were talking
Sure.
about intelligence and the subconscious mind. How much does AI, artificial intelligence, do you think that has any sort of influence on how all of a sudden people are waking up and being more curious about their intelligence system that they have in their brain? Is there any correlation? Because I've been hearing it more and more lately about operating systems. And is that something new, or is that how it's always been with NLP?
Wow, I love the way you put it. It's a very interesting idea you've just raised. In fact, I'm going to go to the extent of saying, yes, that makes a lot of sense. But we're going to go back a little bit before AI too. AI certainly is, the mention all the time that AI can do it better than humans or do it differently or can think for itself is certainly, I think you're right. At a subconscious level, people are wondering, what do I do and how do I do it? Why do people say that human is better than AI? Why do people say that AI can do it better than human? So I think at the subconscious level, that's definitely playing a role. But the other thing that's been happening, if you go back a few years, is the proliferation of social media. The information sources now are broad and varied. So invariably, for example, if you're in business, you're going to come across, and you need to be on social media one way or another.
Right.
And because there's a lot of people there, someone's going to talk about mindset or subconscious mind. So I think there is a, how should I say, it's not weird or strange anymore. And the use of the term operating system is easier now to process because we're all, whether it's iOS or Apple, the term comes up all the time, and people have a broader understanding that this is an intelligence that's allowing me to do what I want to do on the device.
Right. And that's what we have in our brains, and it's always been there.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I learned, oh my gosh, it was Tony Robbins probably 35 years ago. It was one of my first courses I took, and he talked about, or maybe it was Wayne Dyer. It was probably before Tony Robbins. It was probably Wayne Dyer, and he talked about our mind is like a cassette tape, right? And we're recording over top of that to like replace, right?
Yeah.
So that was when my first introduction to like, oh wow, you mean what's up there? I can overwrite it like you would record on a cassette tape or DVD.
Yeah, having said that, Sandee, I feel, and I've worked with thousands of people now, I feel that it is very hard for most people to still accept what you just said.
Okay.
Very hard. Until they come in and do all this work. It's like you're talking to their conscious minds, people's conscious mind. You have an operating system and you can override the programs. You can write new programs. I think people are so inside their feelings. People identify with their feelings, fairly so, and they identify with just the science part of us and no major players in the world from the fields of science or philosophy or maybe philosophy or education are actually actively talking about it. And the other part is people don't want to feel that they're like a computer.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of people, I think it's like, wait, hang on. I'm a person, and I have flesh and I have bones, and so I don't think we are. I would argue that less than point something percent of the planet can easily. The word I would say is contemplate. There's a term we use in our field. We call some things are uncontemplatable.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because if you haven't been exposed to it, I would imagine that it would be something that would be hard to digest for people. And having said that, back to what you were just saying, I do recall having a conversation with a family member who was just in a very negative space and always has been. And I was trying to explain to this person that, you can change. And they were just like, nope, this is how I am. And it's so sad, right? Because if you're one of those people out there that have that understanding of themselves that like, all right, this is it. Just take it. This is it. Folks, there's a lot more out there for you. Let me tell you, how you are thinking today doesn't have to stay that way.
Yeah. Here's the thing why it's harder for people to believe that they can change. I think the messages are too big, too broad, too scary. Right?
Okay.
I think what we've got to get to a point is give people, I used that term earlier, measurable. Means allow people to have a small experience and see the change for themselves, then go to the next one. I mean, it's only this year that even I've only introduced a free seminar, if you will, a free challenge, which only runs over 3 hours a day for 2 days. And I'm getting so much interest. People just want to come and experience it. And after those 2 days, life is never the same. That's only 3 hours each. Now they're like, okay, this works. I can change. Now they can contemplate where they want to go next. So I think that's what it is. For some people, it's just about how do I get them, rather than talking to their conscious mind, which is the critical mind, right? Cigarettes in certain countries, cigarette boxes nowadays show you charred lungs.
Oh, wow.
Dead people. Yeah. In Australia in particular, dead people. It shows you.
Really?
Literally, it says, it says you're going to die. It shows rotten feet. Excuse me for those visuals. You can delete them now. Guess what? The first time people saw it, second, third time, completely desensitized, and they're flying off the shelves like anything. It's like they can't even see it anymore.
Yeah. Become numb to it. Yeah.
That's because the conscious mind, which is not the subconscious mind, its job is to critically analyze everything, filter it and say, I don't know if that's true, right? And that's the issue. If you say to people, you can change, people go, yeah, bullshit. Because that's the mind saying, oh, no, it can't be that easy. It cannot be that easy. And we need to suspend disbelief, Sandee. Like when we go and watch a movie, I always use this example. Imagine going and watching Spider-Man, sitting in there and allowing your conscious mind to run the show. You know what will happen? What's this guy doing, sending webs onto the building?
Right.
That cannot be true. And you'll walk out of the movie. But what do we do instead? We use this term, we suspend disbelief temporarily.
Right.
Now the
Right.
subconscious mind is there. This is why people even end up crying at certain movies, because that's where the emotions come from. So it's real for you for the duration of the movie. Can we take that approach when we do certain things?
I love that. So I just thought of another question. And because because sometimes I think, well, if I'm thinking this, then some of my audience may be thinking it as well. So
Sure.
I need to ask it. Is that why sometimes like we want to watch? Because I don't know why, Reg, but there's times like, I love watching like Independence Day with Will Smith, great movie. And I've
Yeah.
watched it over and over. Like, are we looking for ways to, prepare ourselves? Or why does our brain want to go? Because I'm like, I don't want to see gloom and doom. Why would I want to watch gloom and doom? But yet I enjoy watching gloom and doom. True crime. I'll sit there and watch an hour-long Dateline, and it's awful. But why
Yeah.
do we do that when we know that is it a way to prepare ourselves? Like, is there anything to that, or are we just crazy people that like to make
Oh,
ourselves
no, I
miserable?
wouldn't say that. I'll keep it pretty simple from what I know and have studied and have experienced through a lot of people, because I look for that evidence, right? And two ways I'll answer that. Number one is a very simple answer, which is we all have preferences. We have what's called emotional homes. We like to experience certain emotions. And because what is an emotion? It's energy in motion. That's one way to say it, right?
Right.
We feel certain. We all
Right.
love. I say this, all desires are actually desires for feelings. You don't want the handbag. You want the feeling,
No.
because it's a
Yes.
pretty positive feeling, right? Some
Right.
people enjoy feelings of the thrill. That we use the word thrill, but it's like watching an underdog. Like I personally love movies where a sports star, you know, uh, what's that Gwyneth Paltrow movie or something? This guy who plays football and then he turns into a champion at the end. Oh my God! Like I'm like wow.
Right.
Like, and
Yeah.
that movie with Denzel Washington. Oh, I haven't watched movies for so long. Where there's this team, that he coaches, or Coach Carter, or whatever. Some of these movies that show an underdog, but really, what am I actually enjoying there? I'm enjoying that feeling, feeling sorry for somebody and then ending up in a positive state. Positive state.
Right.
That ride is what we love, right? So that's simple way I would answer. You enjoy feeling certain things. You maybe like to find out what happens in the end. You like to see that in the case of Will Smith's movie. I can't remember fully. I remember seeing it that we crushed the aliens. Is
Yeah.
that right?
We
In the end?
won.
Yeah.
Yep. We
So
did.
maybe somewhere in your neurology, you like the idea of seeing problems come in, but that we overcome them, because I'm sure that's your story. That's
Right.
my second.
Yeah.
That's my second answer. Is our language of the unconscious mind. Stories and metaphors are the language of the subconscious, or we call it unconscious mind. And Hollywood knows this.
Right.
Hollywood knows this
Yeah.
because a lot of times I could be. You may have a problem, Sandee, and I could talk to you. I say, Sandee, I think you should stop procrastinating, and you should, make a schedule, and you should, wake up early. Right? That's what you see on social media. Everyone's given this advice, and in books. There's a problem. The conscious mind, which is your critical mind, is it's starting to process that information and feeling worried. I didn't do it last time. It's not going to happen for me. It's too hard. But what if I said the same thing to you, Sandee? I used to have this client that I worked with, and she, had to compete. Knowing that you like sports, I wouldn't necessarily tell you this. I would just talk to
Right.
you about a client of mine who used to be, a skater or an ice skater. Or I could
Yeah.
make it completely irrelevant to what you've done. I could say, used to be, in pole vault. And, there was a point in her life where she lost all motivation. She didn't go to practice. She gave in to drama in her home. And I could expand that story, right? Now, at some point, I'll come in and talk to you about one day her teammates. She saw them. They were looking a bit sad. And when she asked what has happened, they felt that they were not doing the right thing by the country. I'm just using an example. If
Yeah.
I land up there and if I make it about us instead of just her, will she do it for the team? But I tell you, almost in a covert way, the story, the message will reach your unconscious, your subconscious. You are more
Right.
likely to make that change. Can you believe that?
Oh, I can totally believe it. Yeah, for sure. Because you're pulling that person in and you're making it relatable to them, even if they're not even aware of it. Yeah.
Correct. And there is a story in there of what you, and I think I've seen so many people move. Facts tell, stories sell. You're selling
Yeah.
a change to a person. And I think that's when I say, going back to your point about why do you love to watch these movies? Because when it comes to metaphors, something that you're watching represents something in your life, either now,
Right.
and your subconscious mind loves it. It's like juice for it
Right.
because it's
Yeah.
reminding you of who you are in a completely different context. You tell
Right.
me, have you in your life had a bunch of adversities and looking at you, I think you go to battle with it. You're not the one to squirm and run. You may
Uh-uh.
have a hard time, but in the end, you like to come out victorious. Am I right or wrong?
You are 100% correct. I've overcome so many things. Just like yes. Okay. Well, now I understand why I like to watch those movies. Okay, got it. All right. Can we talk about procrastination? Because I know that it's something that I deal with. Sometimes, not always, but there's sometimes I do.
We all
And
do.
there's yeah, I think we all do. So I want to dive into procrastination, but I just want to know about what you think. You said you don't really watch a lot of television, do you, or no?
Not a lot lately. I mean, I'm running 19 live events a year, so I'm
Oh,
running out of
goodness
time.
gracious. Yeah. I watch the tennis channel. I pretty much just watch tennis.
Okay.
And then maybe an hour or two a day, I'll watch something else. But so when I'm watching the tennis channel, because everything else is streamed and then usually there's no commercials, but on the tennis channel, they keep showing this commercial for Thesis. And while I think it's a really great thing, I just sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, now there's a pill for procrastination.
Oh,
It's called
wow.
Thesis, and it's a pill for procrastination. No, folks, they're not one of my sponsors or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, now there's a pill for procrastination. And I just sit there and I just start laughing because I know, even though I procrastinate, I know it's up here. I don't need to take a pill for it. Right.
Yeah.
What is procrastination? Why do people keep doing it? And we know that we're doing it, and we know that we need to take action, and yet we still do it.
Yeah, great. I didn't know about that pill.
Yeah, there's a pill
I
for it
won't go
now.
into it, but yeah, it sounds to me some sort of band-aid solution or a band-aid, thing.
Of
And
course, it's a Band-Aid. Yeah.
yeah, I think procrastination is a very big term, but essentially all it is there are things we like to do. There are things that, one of the things I share with my students or I teach once or twice a year is what's called ancient Hawaiian Huna. I'm it's a really powerful field. It's a science actually of how the ancient Hawaiians and the
What is
Kahunas,
it called?
Huna,
It's a
Huna,
Hawaiian,
yeah, ancient
so it's
Hawaiian.
different from Ho'oponopono.
Well, Ho'oponopono is part of the science of Huna.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
got
one
it.
one part of it.
One
Yeah,
part. Got it. Okay, didn't
yeah,
know that because
yeah,
I'm all day long. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Like I'm all
yeah,
over that. I
yeah.
love it. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
one element that's to do with forgiveness, but the science of Huna is
Right.
so beautiful and so
Okay.
powerful. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to teach that. I only do that twice a year in the 3-day setting. Um, but the reason I do that is, well, the thing I wanted to say from that is the ancient Hawaiians said something very similar. You've heard of the concept of mana,
Yeah.
life source energy?
Yes.
And really, they had very simple advice. Do more if something energizes you. And I don't mean just physical energy. If something brings you to life, we all know things that bring us to life. This podcast
Right.
brings you to life. I can
Yeah.
tell, right? It energizes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
increases your life source energy. It brings you joy and fulfillment, right? So you'll do more of it without complaining about it. That's how life works. They said something very simple. Said, do more of what increases your mana and do less of what takes away your mana.
Right.
Simple. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But people get very stuck in what they think they ought to do. Have a think about what activities energize and start moving in that direction. We have a technical term for it in NLP. We call it values. What are your personal values? So what is procrastination? Well, it is more pain attached to what it is you need to do. Number one.
Right.
Because people are always moving away from pain and moving towards pleasure, as you know, or,
Right.
you know.
Because you don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it. Number two, people don't really understand what is most important. People don't think about what's more important. At any given time, we're all in procrastination mode, if we really got technical about it. Because there's always things. I'm in this podcast right now. There's something I'm not doing and something I'll put it to later. Sure, we could put all of that under procrastination. But the first thing you got to look at is, what are your values? What's truly important to you? I can tell you, if you're living your life fulfilling more of your values, at least I have this 80-20 rule. If 80% of your life energy is going towards what is truly important to you, because that's stored kinesthetically in your nervous system. And when you're in your values, the executive function of your brain is dialed in, and it's like, I can literally go days without food sometimes. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I believe
Value.
it.
So it always goes back to, there are always small things we defer, whatever. Look at what's important, what will move the needle. Be clear about your values. It's not that hard. Just ask yourself what's important to you. Keep asking until you get a whole list. And there are some other ways in which we get the values out of the subconscious level. Hey, you have your list. Did you know the other simple way? Have a look at where your time, money, energy is going most of the time.
Yeah.
That's going to give you an indicator of values. Now have a look at, how much of your life are you not being able to fulfill your values? Is your value health? Is your value family? Is your value, learning? And you're not being able to do it? Of course you're in tension. Of course you're going to procrastinate on. I hope this helps. We can go days on talking about this.
No, I love it.
But this is the best thing I would leave your listeners with.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with you, Reg, is from a peak performance perspective.
Yeah.
Because I work with a lot of athletes as well. What would you say the biggest benefit NLP would bring to an athlete that's looking to increase their peak performance?
Peak performance, yeah, I love that topic too. And when we think of athletes, or let me use a broader term, high performer.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
some salespeople, some business owners, even some moms and dads, and of course athletes, 100% athletes, right? I like to use a term from the high performers. Means whether they're performing high or not, they have the predisposition for it, right? At some point in their life, they have enough of that inner stuff that says, I want to win, or I need to win, or I have to win. Some people have different versions of those, right? They have the predisposition for it. Now, things happen in our life. I call them significant emotional events. It happens in all of our lives. Something can happen, and that one experience can create a shock in the nervous system. The subconscious mind takes a snapshot, and now it's trying to protect you because its number one directive is to keep you alive.
Right.
Oh, by the way, it may have nothing to do with your sport. So we collect these things, right? Or we have a poor performance, say at one of the competitions or one of the tournaments. And suddenly we start making meanings about it. We go into a negative place. All these things can pile up. Now, when it comes to what is neurolinguistics really? It's unpacking the order and sequence, if I put it very simply, in which you do things.
Right.
Because the order and sequence becomes a program. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I would start my working day. I'll put on the computer. I'd look at the emails, and I'd have a lot of unread emails. And I immediately had a self-talk. Oh my God, that's going to take really long. So I had a visual. I then had a self-talk. We call it auditory digital. And then I got a negative feeling. It all happens very instantly. But we need to unpack it, even though it's fast. So I have what's called a VAD, which is self-talk, and kinesthetic. It's called negative K. Now, it wasn't until I learned all of this, because you know what I used to do? Once I got the negative feeling, I got up, went to the coffee machine, And would you believe it? This was almost every day. I didn't come back to the desk for 40, 45 minutes. Talk about procrastination.
I was just about to say.
It was that specific syntax, that specific program that leads to the same outcome every time. So VADK will always lead to P for me. Now, the field of NLP is really interesting this way. There are techniques that we can do that can disrupt or remove one of those three. How about that?
Yeah.
Because if 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, if you changed, or if, say, let's put it this way, if 1 plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 4, if you remove the middle one, it's no longer 4.
Right.
So when it comes to athletes, the first thing we do is an athlete would do is, we'd want to have them create a very perfect picture of the end result. And I don't mean just visualizing like law of attraction. No, there is a whole science to it. Like there's two ways we do that. One is to looking through your own eyes at the outcome, and the other one is seeing your body in the picture. These are called associated and dissociated. I know it sounds a little bit technical, but it's nothing but just more streamlined visualizations. And then there are processes in which we lock it in. You see, Sandee, anything we have in our life is a result of pictures. If you felt like ice cream today, guess what? You already had it in here.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty fast.
It's as soon as you said ice cream, I could see ice cream like that.
Straight away. Yep.
Straight away.
When you suddenly get the urge, you see the picture, you also get the feeling that comes with it. We call craving. Well, you actually consumed it in here. Now you're doing it in the physical world. So we make sure athletes have a clear order and sequence of how to get the result. The visuals are pretty clear. And then we help install certain ideas that naturally motivate them. We had a guy who does pole vault. It's not that long ago. One session, Sandee, he hadn't been winning medals for ages. One session, it was a 90-minute session. He went and he got a gold in the NCAA. And now, as I understand, he's being prepared for the Olympics.
Nice.
One session. Because when we asked him, he said he didn't have a clear picture. I mean, what is in the way? So if there's mental weeds, we call them weeds, hidden mental barriers, during the discussion or during the training, we're able to find out. And so first part is clearing, second part is installing. And I don't know any major athlete, just so I have this, I cannot prove it with data. I would say 70 to 80% of Olympic gold medalists are using some form of NLP and hypnosis.
Well, and if you're an Olympic athlete at that level, you probably are working with a trained professional.
Always.
Yeah,
who's always
trained.
I've trained quite a number of mental fitness coaches for athletes. There's someone even in the wrestling arena that have an entire mental fitness company. I can't remember the name right now. And when I look at their stuff, it's basically all neurolinguistics and hypnosis, because the last time I checked, the human mind has not changed.
I love how you said that.
It's not. It's been a long time. Maybe coming ahead in the, with AI and everything else. Of course, there are some things going to happen there, clearly.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Is there anything else that you want to throw in that I didn't bring up that you think is important for the audience to know?
Is your audience generally people from all walks of life? Is more athletes?
Yep. All walks of life.
All walks of life.
It depends on which show. Yeah, but yeah.
It depends on which show, yeah. Look, here's what I would say. Everybody has a desire to perform well. I think to be better is too high chunk. It's too abstract. Here's the thing. Everybody, if given the opportunity, they want to get better results, right? Whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's in sport. I think the first part is no tool can really help you if you don't own up to it. I said at the start of this call, life is not the pursuit of happiness. It is the pursuit in life that is happiness. Human beings by nature are goal-seeking mechanisms. Some people call it purpose. The reality is this: we are here to create. Nothing can stop us. And when we stop doing that, this is when we lose sight of our own powers. We can run into procrastination, we can run into negative emotions, and we can end up spending most of our life dealing with lower complexity problems. The neighbors, the neighborhood, what's happening here, what's happening there. And I think people need to dial into who they truly are. This is my, advice after working with thousands of people. Number two, understand what your values are and double, triple down on them and let things evolve. From there, you can, change course, because you don't need to know the outcome before you begin. Hope that helps.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Reg, this has been such an amazing conversation for sure. Folks, check out Reg on his Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. All of those links will be in the show notes. And thank you for what you're doing. It's
Thank
just
you, Sandee.
absolutely incredible.
It's been great. I love what you're doing as well. I love what drives you. It's really good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.